Welcome to the Preserving Family Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to equip you to gain insight, information, and inspiration to help you protect, teach, and guide your family during these turbulent times. Our goal is to provide tools and resources to help you strengthen and preserve your own marriages and families. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Mark and Janie Ogletree.
Well, everyone, we're glad you're with us today. It's always fun to be with you, and I'm excited that Janie's back in town and around. Honey, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you face to face. I know you've been busy, and so today we're pretty excited about our topic because this has become a really fun, valuable part of our lives together. So what should we talk about today, honey?
Well, we had a good idea from one of our listeners who gave us this idea, but they said, what do you do? How do you be a good grandparent if your grandkids live far away? And we thought, oh, that's true, because we do a lot with our grandkids. About half of our grandkids live close by and about half live away.
Right.
And so we do have both of that. We're dealing with both of those circumstances.
Both those situations.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are. I don't think everyone just has all their grandkids living in their neighborhood.
I know. I'm jealous when I do hear that people do have all their kids right around, because I'm like, wow, that would be so nice. But we have so much fun with the grandkids that do live close, and it's just different. You have the opportunity to go to all their games and go to their events and their sporting events and their concerts and all those kind of things, their school plays. And
I think we've kind of decided there definitely are trade-offs, right? Because when we do go to Arkansas.
When we do go visit our kids that are away, you get to spend more quality time.
Right.
Because you're staying in their home, you're there for a few days in a row, things like that. So there are pros and cons.
And you haven't brought work with you, so hopefully you're just all in when you're there for the most part, right?
Yeah. So there are pros and cons to having grandkids that live close and some that live away. But it is a challenge, I think, for the grandkids that live away, either states away or even sometimes internationally away. You really have to be more intentional for our kids and grandkids that live away, because sometimes you just get busy, but to keep that relationship going,
it is sometimes an out of sight, out of mind thing that grandparents have to kind of fight against when those grandchildren and your children aren't right in front of you all the time, that you have to find ways to connect with them for sure.
Right. And sometimes, people have said, oh, well, my grandkids even know me, if we don't live close, or how do we have this meaningful relationship, if we don't live nearby. But the good news is that distance doesn't have to mean disconnection. We can still build those connections. We can still build those relationships with being intentional, being creative, consistency, definitely as part of the intentionality. I think we can really have a powerful and lasting influence in the lives of our grandkids and our children, even if they do live far away. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Right. And I think, Janie, you and I have both talked about this, and that was what kind of influence did our grandparents have on us? And I think I would say not a whole lot, for me anyway. I mean, they were certainly someone you looked up to, and they would come into town once a year, and you'd have fun when they were there. But it wasn't like any of my life decisions or guidance or direction really came from those grandparents, and that was because they did live away, and there wasn't really much of an effort made to connect that often. So when someone's only in your life, once or twice a year, usually they're not going to have a huge significant impact.
And I kind of had the opposite. My grandparents lived in the same town.
Right.
At least my maternal grandparents. And they had a huge influence on my life. Right. I just remember them being around all the time. My paternal grandparents, they did not live close to us. And again, I saw them once a year maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, my grandfather died when I was young, but my grandma would come maybe once a year for a week. And that was the extent of...
Yeah.
And again, we have it so much easier today because we have Zoom, we have FaceTime, we have social media.
We have all the technology.
We have so much technology that really can't be an excuse anymore.
Right.
For not keeping in touch.
Right. But once again, regardless if grandparents live near or far, there's research that tells us that grandparents can play a powerful role in our children's development. In fact, Randall Wright and I wrote a book about a year ago called Intentional Grandparenting, where we kind of talk about a lot of this data And it was fascinating to dig some of this stuff up. Studies suggest that children who have a strong relationship with their grandparents can experience greater emotional security, higher family identity, better coping skills during stress, which that's kind of interesting. Certainly a stronger connection to family traditions. And once again, grandparents provide something that parents often can't, right? And I often think maybe sometimes a grandparent can step in and intervene with a grandchild when the parents have just had it, right? Or the parents are like, we are just not connecting with a child right now. I think a really good grandparent can come in and help with that.
Yeah, be that extra unconditional love person, cheerleader, really listen, just kind of be that impartial person and stable person in their life that they maybe can come to and share with.
Yeah. Here's some other cool research just to throw in here for a minute, but from the AARP, this study that 70% of grandparents say that being a grandparent is one of the most important roles in their life. Don't you feel like grandparenting has elevated over the years, just in our lifetime, from that the older couple that popped in town, in my case anyway, once a year, versus now grandparents are really involved, more so than ever, it feels like.
Right. And I don't know if it's just because now our generation's more healthy, kind of younger. I don't know. Maybe we just know more. I don't know. But everyone that I know who is a grandparent, it's like their favorite thing in the entire world. So, yeah I vote for that.
And I know that we love it too. Children benefit emotionally from grandparent relationships. We've talked about that just for a minute, but this is a Boston College study from a few years ago that close relationships with grandparents reduce emotional and behavioral problems in children. Who wouldn't want that, right? In fact, children who feel close to their grandparents show fewer symptoms of depression, stronger emotional resilience, and a greater sense of family identity. And that leads to the third point, which is that grandparents really can help preserve family identity. Don't you love it, Janie? I don't know if your grandparents did a lot of this, but when they kind of sat around and just told stories, and they would tell stories of the old days, I was always fascinated by that. Researchers at Emory University discovered something fascinating, that children who know their family stories, the stories about their parents and about their grandparents, are a lot more resilient, and they just do a better job of coping with stress, which I think is just so needed today. I don't know, did that happen with you? Did you have grandparents that were sharing stories and experiences about the old days and connecting you to their grandparents and their relatives much at all?
Yeah. We heard all kinds of stories about ancestors or their ancestors, and stories from their youth, and stories about the Depression, stories about their military service. Yeah, all kinds of really cool things. I think listening to all their stories, it gives it gives grandchildren kind of the roots and wings that they need. So as they hear about the roots of where they came from, the people that came before them, the people that laid the foundation in their family, the hard things that they did, it gives them identity, and it gives them a sense of belonging and a sense of heritage, and kind of I can do, if my ancestors could do that, I can do that.
Right.
And it also gives them wings to, as they go forward, to have the confidence to go forward in their own lives because they come from good stock, or
if my grandfather could do that, I could do that.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. So I think that's really important. Another thing that grandparents do for kids is they make those connections through the generations, and so yeah. So I think distance does make relationships a little harder, but it's not impossible. We got this. We can do this, especially today with the technology we have.
Right. It's almost like there's no excuse,
Right.
Except for schedules or whatever. Now, we believe that the secret to long-distance grandparenting is the idea of intentionality. You've heard us talk a lot about that on this podcast, to be intentional. Grandparents who stay close to their distant grandchildren usually do three things well, is what research tells us. They initiate the contact, and I see that happening sometimes where the older generation is waiting for the younger generation to come to them, right? But these grandparents, if you want to be successful, they're the ones initiating the contact, and they're totally okay with that. They create traditions, which I know, Janie, that's something you really like to do. They are creators, and they create traditions, and then they do invest emotionally. We know that relationships rarely happen accidentally, right? That it takes time, effort, and energy to build a relationship with anyone. And these successful grandparents that are grandparenting from a distance are willing to invest, right? And these efforts may be small. Remember, out of small and simple things proceedeth that which is great. Sometimes just a phone call or a text. I was with Randall, Randall Wright, last summer as we were doing a podcast on grandparenting, and he was just showing me all the texts, because our oldest grandkid is 14, right? But his grandchildren are young single adults and married. But he was just showing me all the texts that go back and forth between him and his grandchildren all day long. And they're funny, and it's fun, and they're just having a great time.
Oh, cute.
We don't want to try to tell anyone that we have this down pat at all. We know Janie and I would be the first to tell you that we struggle just like anyone else would. We're just trying our best and doing the best we can with the time and the financial constraints that we have, like everyone else. But we do know that there are some great principles that all of us could probably incorporate to do a lot better in this area.
So as we've thought about this principle of long distance grandparenting, we just thought of a few ways maybe that we've heard of or seen or have experienced ourselves or wish that we did better.
Right, in some cases for sure.
And we just kind of thought we would talk about a few of these just to give you ideas. But there are so many ways to do this. There's so many creative ways. I think for as many people that there are doing this, there's that many ways, because we all have different talents. We all have different gifts. We all have different thoughts. Our families are so unique. Our grandkids are so unique. And so, but these are just some ones, kind of the basic that probably anybody can start with. And like we've mentioned before, the first one we kind of came up with is video calls or phone calls or Zoom calls or FaceTime or Google Meets or whatever
medium you
works.
use.
Yeah, if you've got teenagers, maybe Group Me works better. Maybe, I don't know, whatever they're on. Maybe you talk to them on Instagram, whatever. Our grandkids are still pretty young. I think we only have one that has a phone. Maybe a couple have watches, but we're not really in that point yet of communicating with them online. But anyway, but our ones that live away, we do try to Zoom and we try to call. But like we were just saying, sometimes we call and they're either already in bed or they're not there, or so we miss them a lot. And so,
well, I think by the time our schedule matches for us to call,
like the East Coast,
especially when there's time zone changes, right? All of a sudden they're like, "Oh, the kids are in bed." We're like, "Oh, shoot!"
Right. So we need to be better at that. But we also kind of said, instead of occasional random calls, we need to create a routine, and I think we need to be better at this. We try to do it on Sundays, but that doesn't always happen because there's so much going on Sundays. But establishing a routine, like every Sunday night at 7, we're calling, or Wednesday night at bedtime we're calling, or have a monthly online grandparent night where all the kids get on together or something like that. And we were just saying that consistency builds familiarity. So, and I know that we probably need to be better at that.
Yeah.
Doing the consistency. We just try to call as we're maybe driving or whatever, and we kind of miss.
And they're busy too.
They're busy.
A lot of times we'll call and they're at someone's house for dinner or whatever. And all the more reason, Janie, like you were saying, that we probably need to do a better job of scheduling that, just because they have a life too, right? And they're trying to sometimes get kids in bed or whatever they have going on. My
girls do a great job. They've got a Marco Polo that they share everything and talk about all day long. And I don't participate as much. I always listen, but I'm always about 300 behind because that's about where the state of my life right now. So I'm about 2 weeks out, so I get to hear about what happened, anyway.
What happened 2 weeks ago?
But I love that they all communicate, and I need to be better. I need to get ahead so that then I can contribute more. But anyway, there's just all these different ways that we can stay connected as families, whether with our children or grandchildren.
I know, Janie, that we're going to probably do an episode at some point on cousins because you have a great passion for that. But I'm even thinking about ideas just for ourselves as we're talking, and I love the idea of having a monthly grandparent night where maybe all the grandkids get on and they can all talk to each other for a few minutes and maybe we share something cool with them. But just to keep the cousins and I know that's really important for us, is to keep the cousins connected, because when they do live far away, it's easier for them to feel left out.
Yeah. I've heard of grandparents calling each night and reading a book, to the grandchild online, or tell them a favorite story from their life at bedtime, things like that. So there's all kinds of different things that we can do to keep connected.
Keep that connection, yeah.
And a lot of it stems from what the kids are interested in. I knew someone once who she was an avid reader, and she got all of her grandkids really hooked on books. They were just a big reading family. And so she would send a book out every month to the grandkids, and they would kind of read it, kind of like a book club.
Oh, wow.
And then they would talk about it, things like that. And so whatever works in your family, go for it. Like, just grab that and go.
I love that. Another idea we thought of is the idea of just recording video messages. Or in other words, sometimes if you can't reach them, but at least we can record a message and send it to them. I think that's very easy to do on our smartphones. But I love doing that when it's their birthday. I know a lot of grandparents are really good about doing that at other times. Like, hey, good luck. We know you have a big game tonight. Just wanted you to know we love you and we're cheering for you, even though we're 1,000 miles away. Or just any big events in their life, a fun little video message to send can be really easy to do.
Another thing that I like to do is the old school, real letters.
You mean they still do that?
With a couple of my grandkids, I've actually written, like we kind of did the pen pal thing. It's kind of died off in the past 6 months, and I need to send her a letter again and see if we can get it going back. She got busy and I got busy, but it's just fun to send cute little letters, and I just stick a little treat in it, or a little stick of gum, or a little bracelet or something that I can just, put in with the letter. And that's always fun, because I know I love getting mail, and I think that at least this one granddaughter, I think she really liked getting mail too. So that was fun. We can communicate that way. Of course, we love sending birthday gifts. We make birthdays kind of a big deal in our family. So we love to send a gift, and then we call usually on their birthday, and Mark does the video, and we do in our family group post. We always post about that person. Everyone posts pictures and what they love about that person. So birthdays are fun. I love to send postcards, and I got this idea from Marjorie Pay Hinckley.
Oh, wow.
In her book
that I love Marjorie Pay.
That I read a million years ago, but she's like one of my heroes, and everywhere they would travel, that she and President Hinckley all over the world would get a postcard. And she just kept postcard stamps with her all the time. And she, as they traveled, would write to all the grandkids and send them a postcard from all the places that they've traveled. So we've tried to do that a little bit. I don't know if anyone cares, but for us, it's fun to...
Well, you do a great job of that.
To get postcards and send them. Usually we get home before the postcards make it home. But
that takes
forever from all over the world to get postcards. But that's kind of fun. And again, I don't know if they care, but I don't know.
I think they do. Here's another one. Another idea is just celebrate achievements with them. And their achievements can be simple, right? It could be as small as I made a really good grade on this, in this class, or maybe they're performing in a play, or they have a band recital, or they're on sports. We have a kind of a tradition. So Janie, just as you may write them letters, what I try to do is when they accomplish something is to send them something through Amazon in terms of some kind of treat, right? Because that's really easy to do now. So literally had a granddaughter call me about 2 weeks ago. She's 7 years old. And she said, I want you to know that I made a basket at my basketball game today. And the next day she had her little treat show up in Arkansas. And so we really try to kind of do that with our grandkids. And as they call and tell us cool things, we try to reward them. And that's just another way to stay connected.
I really like to take advantage of holidays. That's a fun way to really help them just know that they're being thought of. So Valentine's, Easter, we try to just send...
Even General Conference.
We've done that in the past. Send them, just something that, hey, we're thinking about you. They love to just, get a surprise package from Mimi and Coach in the mail, and, and just have little gift bags or treat bags or something like that, just to know that we're thinking of them.
Yeah. Another way to connect with our grandchildren who live far away is just to continue to share family stories. And those aren't only just stories from our lives and the lives of our ancestors who have gone before us, but also one of my favorite things, Janie, is I love telling our grandchildren about their parents, our children, and what they were doing when they were their age, or something cool they accomplished. And that can be done, of course, with our grandkids here, but also can be done with our grandkids who live far away. Did you know how awesome your dad was at basketball? Or did you know that your mom once did this fun thing with her entire high school, and it was really... Or when she was a little girl, this is what happened. And I think those stories do create identity and belonging.
Yeah, that's fun. And I think you just had that opportunity.
Just recently I was at a basketball game. One of our daughters, now this wasn't a distant story, but one of our daughters, both of our twin daughters still play basketball in their mid-30s. And they're both in leagues, but one of our daughters was in kind of a playoff situation, and I went over there to watch that game. And I was able to sit with some of my grandkids. That was their mom playing, and just say, I don't know if you guys know, but when your mom was in middle school and high school, she was an incredible basketball player. And they had no idea, but I said, yeah, why do you think she's out there right now at age 35 after she's had 4 kids? But she's amazing. And they just lit up. They're like, wow, our mom was pretty cool. And still is, right? So
yeah, so we can share those stories in all the time.
Yeah, whether
right?
we're far or close by.
Right. So the next point we kind of came up with is even if our kids and grandkids live far away, we still need to physically be close to them, even if it's once a year, maybe it's every other year, depending on where they live, but we can't just disregard them and never see them.
Right.
We still need to be close. And I know travel's expensive these days. It's hard, sometimes, and maybe there's reasons why we physically can't visit them.
Sometimes people have health issues and that doesn't allow them to travel.
Yeah, but I know somebody who grew up always living kind of away from family. They lived internationally. Then they lived on the other side of the country from the rest of their family, and they felt very like the black sheep of the family. They felt like no one ever came out and saw them. The grandparents never came out because most of their kids were around. They just felt very excluded.
Yeah.
Their whole life. And I tell Mark all the time is we do not want that to happen. So we really try to make an effort. Well, luckily our kids come back to Utah a lot, so we get to see them. But we also need to make the effort to go out and see them at least once a year. So that's kind of our goal. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but that's our goal.
but even Janie, under this idea of planning these special visits and times, I think even you having grandma camp, or even just family reunions that we have every year, I think that's also a way to kind of be in their presence, right, when you can.
Yeah, and that's been a blessing that most of our kids do come back in the summertime. So we have been able to hold like family reunions and grandma camp and different things like that, where we get the cousins together, where we get the whole family together. And that has been a huge blessing. The kids love it.
They love being together, don't they?
And we love being with them. We love watching them all together. But then there's also, we love going to their house one-on-one, because I love when we're all together, but it's a lot. It's a big circus. I told someone it's like taking a primary with us wherever we go, so, but that's why we actually like going into individual homes and just spending like one-on-one time with each family. And so we really treasure the times where we just get to go with each family or spend a night with one family, our kids that live here even. But we love that when we get to go out, out east and see our different kids out there and spend one-on-one time, because that's really special and that's where we really bond with them.
Awesome. Here's another kind of concept here on keeping this, relationship with our grandchildren who live far away, but we would call it in the field of psychology or family studies reciprocity or bidirectionality, which just means a relationship goes in two directions. And so we can't celebrate exciting events with our grandchildren if we don't know about them, right? If our children don't tell us that Calvin just made the traveling baseball team, or that Luke just scored 21 points, or that Mia just scored a goal today in her soccer game, or we can go to Ella has a play tonight,
or somebody lost a tooth, or whatever.
Yeah, it could be
somebody got potty trained.
Right.
Because we really do, as grandparents, I think, want to celebrate those events, with our and congratulate them and make it a big deal. But we can't. Yeah, like you said, we can't celebrate unless we know about it. And so we love those phone calls. Right. When our Calvin, will call and say, I just made the baseball team or whatever.
Because our daughter made sure that he said, your grandparents are going to want to know that. So
we love that principle that it has to kind of go both ways. Yes, grandparents can reach out and try to do all that we can, but we don't know what's going on 7 states away.
Right. Or even in our own town sometimes, we love to know what's happening. So
yeah.
Good. That's a great principle. I like it.
Kind of our last principle that we've kind of thought about, maybe this is for us, maybe we need this more than
we need
anyone.
this therapy, yes.
But it's the small things that that matter. It's the quick phone call, the little letter in the mail, the treat. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. But I feel sometimes like, oh, if I'm going to do something for one, I need to do 31. You know, if I'm going to do a little bag, I've got to do 31 treat bags. And sometimes I get so overwhelmed that I don't do anything. But I can easily write one little letter and send it off to one grandchild, or
I could call
or make one
grandkid.
phone call, or, you know, text one, or anyway, I think it's in the small things. It's just keeping those relationships going, and it literally is in the small things that
great things come to
pass.
I totally agree with that. It could be
the small, consistent, intentional things.
Right. A small text.
Yeah.
Reaching out. I know a lot of it's technology, but just reaching out and making those connections means a lot. You know, Janie, I was trying to think if I had, you know, some kind of story or experience to share. And the one that comes to my mind, and I'm not even thinking in terms of a grandparent, I'm thinking in terms of just a parent. But I remember years ago when our oldest daughter, Brittany, was getting baptized, your parents came out from Texas to be with us for that weekend. And I remember when we drove them back to the airport in Phoenix, dropping them off. And I remember just telling your dad very personally that I was so grateful that they came. And it was just really cool at that point in our lives just to hang out with them, just with your mom and dad that weekend. Not only did our oldest daughter just get baptized, but to have them there, but also to be able just to hang out with them. And at that time in our life, the family was growing quite a bit. And a lot of your siblings were having children, and they were married, and it was just busy. And so it was like the circus, like you said. Whenever we got together, it was just this big circus. And now here was this moment where we just had just your mom and dad to ourselves, and it was just so memorable to me. And I felt like I just felt so, I think, loved by them and cared for by them that they would take the time to do that. And
we felt grateful that they loved on our children too.
Right.
And, you know, that the grandparents, that they in turn felt so much love from their grandparents. And anytime they came into the home, they would joke with them, they would play with them.
Make them laugh,
make them their favorite food, you know, have certain,
it was
all
just
the traditions, all the things that we
right?
talk about. Yeah.
You knew that it was going to be special.
And so hopefully we in turn can impart that to our grandchildren, that hopefully they get excited when we come, or when they get a letter from us, or when we get a phone call from us. And that's just how we build those relationships.
Yeah.
Either close by or with our children, grandchildren who live away.
Right.
So in closing, we always do our LDS, let's do something. And I know I've had a lot of thoughts as we've been talking for the last little while about what I need to do better this week. But we can all think, what is one thing that we could do to connect with just one of our grandchildren this week? We don't have to do all of them. We don't have to reach out to everyone. But with one, what's something that we can do to reach out to that person, and let's do it.
Whether it's a call, a text, a letter, a video message, just whatever we've talked about today. I like the idea that small efforts repeated create lifelong relationships. I think that's a great thought.
That's a great statement to end on.
Yeah. Everyone have a great week. Thank you for being with us. We look forward to being with you again.